The art of the deal, that's what Donald Trump is known for. As president-elect, Trump's trademark drive to secure the best deals for the United States has defined his approach to foreign policy. But as he gears up for his second term, the question remains, can he deliver once again? During his campaign, Trump emphasized an America-first approach, advocating for reduced US involvement in foreign conflicts while strengthening alliances with key regional partners. Now, faced with the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, Trump has made his intentions clear that he desires to bring these to an end, starting with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, soon to enter its third year.
It might be the case that actually Donald Trump continues to provide aid to Ukraine in order to force Russia to the bargaining table to negotiate a peace deal, but it would be for a different reason. And I think the pressure to really get to that deal will be quite urgent. But whether Zelensky and Putin will accept a deal, if there is a deal, whether it will be stable and lasting, these are really big questions. It's very far from clear what the proposal is for securing that border. But again, Trump wants to focus, and I think is quite determined not to be a president, a wartime president, but to be a peacetime president.
A cornerstone of Trump's Middle East strategy is confronting Iran's nuclear ambitions. He has signaled a return to the maximum pressure campaign aiming to cripple Iran's economy through stringent sanctions and diplomatic isolation.
I think there's going to be more of a focus on Iran, tightening the screws, probably a maximum pressure campaign designed again to get more leverage over Iran and its regional activities at a time when there is an opportunity because Iran is quite weak at the moment. And I think that, in some ways the broader difference is just going to be, what we've heard is true, that President Trump is a transactional foreign policy president. He's looking for the deal. He's looking to, in the short term, promote U.S. national interests.
Trump's steadfast support for Israel is expected to persist, with calls for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to swiftly resolve the Gaza conflict, consideration of potential strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, and Jared Kushner likely taking a central role in expanding the Abraham Accords to normalize relations between Israel and additional Arab nations.
In the Middle East, again, I think this is where Donald Trump cares a lot. I think he sees a real opportunity here. He clearly worked on the Abraham Accords. He saw as one of his major foreign policy achievements in the Middle East.
In broader Middle East policy, Trump's cabinet picks and campaign promises reflect pragmatic isolationism, focusing on regional stability, countering Iran's influence, and reducing direct US military involvement.
Israel clearly is positioning itself to have a lot of power influence in the region. So I think that Trump will wish to engage in this, but he's not going to do it by putting American troops in harm's way, which means he's not going to put more people on the ground. It is going to have to be through trying to work with leader of Turkey, Erdogan, with Netanyahu, and with others in the region, Saudi Arabia, obviously, who can come together and try to find some sort of solution. Very difficult, I might add, for a president who has demonstrated virtually no interest in the Palestinians. It is very difficult to see how you solve the problem of Middle East regional security and peace without dealing with the problem of Palestinian sovereignty, a Palestinian state.
In South Asia, Trump's administration is expected to continue viewing the region through the lens of its existing Indo-Pacific strategy, emphasizing countering China's influence and strengthening ties with key partners like India.
If we assume that the Indo-Pacific strategy will be retained, and I'm sure it will be deployed in South Asia in ways similar to what we've seen over the last 4 years. So that will mean, among other things, aiming to strengthen partnership with India, and also trying to strengthen ties with most other countries in South Asia in order to try to convince these countries to rely less on China, particularly for economic support. And, the main thrust of the Indo-Pacific strategy in the Biden era was essentially this idea that, the U.S. can essentially provide better options, better alternatives to what China has been able to provide in the forms of investment, particularly infrastructure investment.
The Trump administration's Southeast Asia strategy may focus on countering China's assertiveness in the South China Sea through an enhanced naval presence and strengthened security collaborations with nations like the Philippines and Vietnam, which support a more robust US role in the region.
America's treaty allies in East Asia, much like its NATO allies in Europe, will be a bit concerned about the return of Trump, just because, we saw when he was president the first time, he was critical of U.S. alliances and was always saying that U.S. alliance partners should do more, in terms of paying more and doing more to make these alliances work. So, for instance, I don't think that Trump would want to do anything that could raise the possibility of a conflict in the Taiwan Strait.
As the Trump administration's policies unfold, South and Southeast Asia will navigate a complex landscape of strategic partnerships, economic negotiations, and regional security challenges.
We have seen India in recent weeks, actually recent months, try to pursue a limited détente with China. There was a border deal concluded some weeks ago. And so it sort of raises an interesting question, particularly if Trump himself wants to try to do what he can to ease tensions with China, particularly on the military competition side. He seems to respect and admire President Xi. And it could also come down to interpersonal dynamics within the Trump administration. We know that the National Security Advisor and other key officials in the administration, if they're confirmed, will want to really push this competition with China hard on all facets. What would Trump think of that?